listen to this. All right. Quick story time. This is super relevant. All right. Um, because you can learn something from this. If you're in your agency and you don't um, learn from someone like Ryan, you have to, okay? Because Ryan was a subject matter expert, right? That's like a fancy word for being like a local, like a niche expert, right? So I'm in San Diego. I just shut down my failure agency. Okay. Started my Facebook ad agency. Ryan's working at the gym down the street from my office. All right. And trust me, this will be more about Ryan very quickly. But the story is that I was like, I just had ACL surgery like a year before, had a kid. My knee was in terrible shape. I had to get back in shape. Okay. My body was out of shape. So I go down in the local gym, and Ryan is the salesperson that helps me. And I didn't know this at the time, but he was like this sales director of sales at this gym. So he does this thing, and by the end of it, I end up giving him like $1,000 to join a gym for like a year. Okay. So I'm cutting a lot of that story out. But after he closes the deal, and he did it in a way that was non-salesy, and I felt like he just extracted what I wanted out of myself. I didn't even know I wanted to sign up really, but I needed to, right? And he asked me, and I said, "Oh, let me go home to talk to my wife about it." He's like, "Well, that's cool. I can understand that, but what do you think your wife would say if you just pulled the trigger with no downside here? You could change your mind later. That's fine. But if you just went ahead and signed up today with like knowing that you could, you've got like a safety net essentially, what do you think she would say if you just went home today?" And I was like, "Oh, she's been asking me to get back in shape. She's been asking me to, rehab my knee more further. Like she wants me to do this." And he's like, "Okay, so you still want to do it?" And I was like, "Okay, sure." like that one question was the difference between $1,000 sale. And I volunteered this information. It was not a high pressure sales situation, right? So then he goes, "Okay, that's all set up. I got your membership set up and everything. Let me know what your wife says. But what do you do for a living?" And I say, "Oh, I run Facebook ads for local businesses." And he turns the screen around and goes, "What am I doing wrong?" And he shows me his Facebook ads manager campaign, right? And I'm like, "Oh my God, like so many things." And, to be honest, like he was doing better than most small businesses that I've seen, like way better. But I was like, "Bro, like you're sitting on a gold mine and you don't even probably know it." Like there's just so many things. But he was running the ads because the owner of the gym was like, "Look, I'll let you run the ads. I'll spend some money, but it's up to you to get more appointments and memberships from it," which is how Ryan got compensated. Okay. So we met that day. Long story short, I became their Facebook ads guy. So they hired me. I was setting them up and Ryan was knocking them down. Okay. And it was really good for like a year. Okay. And that was like a year that we worked together in that client local business relationship before Ryan and I became business partners. When we became business partners, we started FCA, which is our fitness agency. So fitness agency went from 0 to 2.2 million in 21 months, helped 535 locations and some of the biggest brands in the world, productized service, charge high ticket to tiny gym owners, like micro gym owners, basically. They made money. We made money. It was great. Then I ended up selling that agency at the end of those 22 months. Okay. Since then, Ryan has been my right-hand guy, all things sales. He's my director of sales again in our coaching program, but he now owns, I think, 6 gyms. Is it, Ryan?
Yes.
These are the things you would never say because you're freaking a baller. You're so awesome. So part owner of 6 gyms, micro gyms. Okay. And does sales consulting at a very high level. And he also like spends most of his days working with us in Forest, developing our sales department and helping people like you run, run high ticket sales with your agency. Okay. So that's his pedigree. Ryan's been doing this for forever, right? Like over 10 years. And he's much younger than me, much more handsome, has a better beard, has more hair. These are all
Rob,
pluses. I'm not going to
let's
cover any negatives, but this is the last thing I'll say about Ryan Moore. Okay, is that his the way that he has refined our sales scripts, I don't think you'll find anywhere else. Okay, because everything that I've talked about yesterday and on Friday, so not only in the pricing and packaging session, but everything I talked about conceptually on the very first day, Ryan has taken that and not changed a dang thing. And he's just adopted a script so that you guys, so that this is a script we use, script we teach to our coaching clients, script that you can use. He's going to teach it to you today to do one call closes with the productized packaging and pricing I showed you guys yesterday. So you can still charge high ticket without all the drawbacks and headaches of all the other stuff. Okay. So guys, like this is, I'm not kidding. This is not BS. We charge $5,000 to $25,000 to sit in a room with Ryan Moore for 3 days in a sales boot camp. That's what we charge historically. Okay. To sit there and learn this stuff. And he's going to compact it all into hopefully like an hour, hour and a half for you guys. So let's just give it up. Ryan's taking time. Again, he's donating his
how
time. I'm
many
donating mine. It's like we're doing all that. Okay. So you guys are going to get it for free here today.
how many of y'all are
So
excited for this? If you're excited, give me some comments in the Facebook streaming, y'all, because I've heard of Ryan. Matter of fact, back when I was a young student, like in 2014, 2013, I funnel hacked these guys, meaning Rob and Ryan. I funnel hacked through all their FCA stuff, and I'm going through scripts, and I'm listening to like Ryan's like interviews that they would do for success stories, right? But even in the interviews, I was observing his language. He was really just positioning the folks that he was interviewing in figuring out their current situation to the desired situation. Like you can tell there is a mentality of expansion revenue, not in a salesy way, but even with those interviews, he's positioning for the next thing, right? That's when I knew Ryan was really good at what he did. And I don't think we've met in person, Ryan. But either way, I'm excited for you to jump into this. And I know we're about 20 minutes into the intro already. We did have a late start. We go through about an hour of this real quick, and then we'll do a Q&A. But Ryan, without any more delay, let's go right into the slides, brother.
On, here we go. And Paulson, do you want me to be able to run a screen share from this side and go through the script, or do you have those in your deck today?
I have those on my side, so I know what's up and coming for your next slide. So, like yesterday, I would foreplay with Rob and ask him questions that'll move to the next slide, so that way it's in sync. But you can control the slides. I already have the slides on my side. It doesn't go well when I'm controlling while you're talking. You rather just have the full freedom of being able to go back and forth. But yeah, so feel free. We're on day 2, guys, on agenda, just so you know.
Right on. Well, it's good to be here. I'm excited to see what happens, with your businesses and the businesses you're going to support, because sales is one of the most incredible things that you can provide to someone, to a person, to a business owner as a service. For you to close them on what you offer is actually providing a service to them in their business. And when you sell something to a small business owner that helps them make more sales, they're able to hire more people and provide more things into the world. So sales, in my opinion, is the rising tide that lifts all ships. And what we get to do in this environment where we hone our skills is become better at moving the world forward. And a lot of people think of sales as like, well, you have to be some kind of high energy guy or somebody who's really aggressive. You just got to get in there, just be aggressive, or some sort of magical script. And people think about it like that all the time, but I want to let you know that it has nothing to do with magical scripts or being that guy who's really good at sales, or being super aggressive on the phones or something like that. It has everything to do with the belief that you can hone this skill set, improve this skill set, and that when you do, your business and the businesses of everybody else that you serve will be better for it. So that's where we're coming from. Where we're starting is that you all here are very capable of becoming better at sales. Anybody who decides that they want to be better at something can be and will be, particularly if they're aligned with it on a deeper level. So I invite you to take on that belief that when you perform a sales conversation with a business owner, it is a service to that business owner. You're helping them find clarity. You're helping them to identify opportunities for growth in their business. And ultimately, that serves our calling here to help make the world a better place, to be able to help small business owners grow, to be able to expand our businesses. All of those things, it's not a transfer of wealth, it's a creation of wealth. And I think that's the biggest mindset mentality that someone struggles with if they're not really leaning into sales. It's frequent for people to think that a sale is a transfer of wealth, like I'm taking money from you when I sell you. But if you instead adapt your mentality to the belief that this is actually creation of wealth, because when you sell a thing to a business owner, they sell more things to more people and they provide more jobs. And so this is a thing that we get to do that has a massive ripple effect in the world. So let's talk about sales a little bit. A lot of people like to think of the end goal of a sales process as getting to a yes, where my job is to get this business owner to buy my thing. And that's that like transfer of wealth type mentality that comes in, right? So let that go. And instead of thinking about getting to them giving you money, instead align yourself with clarity. The main role of a salesperson in any sales conversation is to help the person that they're communicating with find a place of clarity. Clarity could be a clear yes. Clarity could be a clear no. Clarity is anything other than a maybe, right? So you or your team members have done their job well when you arrive at a place of clarity with that prospect where they could say, nope, I'm not going to move forward with what you're offering, or yes, I am. Anything other than that, there's opportunity for improvement. Does that make sense? So that's the goal. Now, another area where I see people struggle is occasionally they'll think to themselves, wow, I wish that I could fix this person's whole business. Or if they just had more opportunities, their entire business would be fixed, right? And then it can be difficult because they're trying to sell you on the fact that all they need is more leads and they're going to be effective in the world. They think that all they need is more leads. They think that all they need is more opportunities. And so their belief gets pushed on you as the owner of a marketing business. If your sights are on fixing everyone's business forever for the rest of your life and being the best thing that everyone's ever experienced, you're going to fail at that, right? So instead of considering yourself as able to transform every business just by bringing more people in through the doors, adjust your expectations for what the client will get. All you can do for your average client is move their business forward by a notch. There are business owners who have tremendous issues in their business. Most small businesses fail. Like the majority of them do not exist in 5 years from now. We all know that, right? And it's not always for lack of leads. Like many times it's lack of good sales processes or lack of good marketing processes. Those are the two most common issues besides, improper funding, which is just not planning well from the beginning, right? So those are some of the big ones, but there's a ton of other things that cause small businesses to fail all the time. Not least of which is lack of education on the part of the owner. So if you think it's your job to have every business owner be successful that works with you, you've got it wrong. You cannot provide success to every single business owner you talk to. If you think that that's your job, the moment you get a client that doesn't succeed, it'll beat up your mentality and reduce your ability to onboard the next client because this tiny notch of insecurity will creep in. Insecurity is something that prospects will be able to smell. They're going to be able to sense that. So don't set your expectations up improperly. Don't set yourself up for failure. All you're looking to do is give every business owner you connect with a better chance of success than they would have without you. That's what we do as marketers. When I work with gym owners, I can't guarantee their success. I can't guarantee that they're going to wake up tomorrow morning, let alone their success in business. Nobody can do that. But what I can do is I can give them a much better shot at success than they would have without me. So with some of those mentality elements out of the way, let's dive into a couple details. First off, you need to know your niche. There's a couple things that you want to have in your arsenal. And by the way, I'm starting from knowing your niche, right? I'm not assuming that you're trying to work with everybody who does everything. My assumption is that you've chosen an industry and you specialize in that industry. You know, in our program, we give people an entire client acquisition system, but it starts with choosing a niche, because if you're utilizing even the sharpest client acquisition system in the world, but going after all sorts of different avatars, all sorts of different business owners who provide different things and providing different things to them, not only are you creating a mess that's impossible to scale, but you're making it 10 times harder on the client acquisition front. So your messaging has to go to that specific person that you're looking to connect with. You know your niche, and you have to have an unfair advantage in that niche. The idea is you pick an industry where you can become the top of that industry. And that's why Rob and I went into fitness, not because fitness is necessarily the greatest niche to work with. I mean, these business owners don't have money many times, but because we had an unfair advantage. So number one, look for an unfair advantage when you're selecting your niche. Number two, look for the highest client lifetime value. And number three, look for the shortest possible sales cycle. If you can identify those three factors where you have an edge, your customers have a high client lifetime value, and they have a short sales cycle, now you're set up for success. So as we move into what the sales conversation should look like and what the sales conversation should sound like, you need to do a bit of prep, okay? You want to know where the line is that you won't surrender. So I don't know if anyone here has experienced this before, but you meet with someone, they've got a business that you want to work with. You arrive at the conclusion that you want to work with them and they want to work with you. And you're like, great, let's move forward. And they're like, sweet, send me a proposal. If you wind up there, you've done it wrong. Like it's all wrong right from the beginning. If there's an opportunity at the end of that conversation for them to say, send me a proposal, you have not laid your battle plans well. So by know the line you won't surrender, what I'm encouraging you to do is to establish your price points for what you provide to that specific industry that you have an unfair advantage in, so that at the end of that call, there's no need for you to send a proposal. At the end of that call, you say, it normally costs $8,500 to get started with me. And that will cover the first 3 months of access to this program. After that, it's just $1,500 per month, all month to month. And I'll tell you what, right now, I have 2 openings left that I'm looking to fill in the next week or so. And you're a perfect fit for what we do. So if you'd like to get started with me today, I'll take $2,000 off of the upfront investment, so it comes down to just $5,500, right? Or something like that, so that you have your price point ironed out, what you're going to offer. Now, you may have to have several fallback points that we'll talk about later. There may be objections that you deal with or whatever else. And we're going to talk about that later today as well. But suffice it to say that if you approach a conversation without a specific niche and without a price point that you are expecting to charge a credit card for at the end of that conversation, you have not laid your foundation well for the average sales conversation.
Real quick, Ryan.
Yeah.
Real quick, Ryan, for those of you that have a doubt in your mind about the industry that you're serving, or maybe you're serving 3 masters, right? I think it's time that you have to let go and make a decision about the industry you're going to serve. And if you cannot go in there diving and becoming the industry, in loving that industry to the point where you know you can go all in, then you're doing yourself a disservice. Like when I had my dental agency, I had marketers literally DMing me, LinkedIn messaging me, adding me to groups, all kinds of stuff, because they just see another brown guy and they're like, oh, this guy must be a dentist too. Literally, they would pound me on marketing, right? And what I would do is go to those events. I would hang out with these dental practice owners. I would literally immerse myself into their life, understand what they go through. And then when I come back to the agency side, guess what? I know the boundaries that I want to build around pricing, the packaging. That way, when I'm selling, I don't have a disconnect between the fulfillment side. Okay, so you have to make some critical decisions on this workshop. If you have multiple industries, stop it. If you're running multiple services, stop it. Create yourself a stepping stone. Okay, because if you don't have that in place, what Ryan's teaching you today is not going to apply to you. You're not going to have a box of offers. You're not going to have a borderline around your services that nobody can cross. Everything is a gray sense of urgency or a gray sense of fulfillment where the client controls the relationship. So therefore, you never scale because you get drowned in the fulfillment or the sales side, right? I just wanted to add that on there as people are just curious right out of the gate. Well, I don't have an industry just yet. Well, we're telling you to just pick one. There's nothing special about any industry. Pick one, okay? Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, that's good advice. And, the challenge comes in, or I've seen this happen a lot of times where if, like, for instance, if I equip someone with a really incredible client acquisition system and they've got more than enough sales opportunities coming at them, and then I equip them with the onboarding process, and a third of these people are saying yes in one conversation, and they're dropping 7K on a credit card. You do that 10 times in a row, and all of a sudden you have to stop to fix your fulfillment because you have 70K in the bank and 10 new clients. That seems like a great problem to have until you've dealt with that problem at several phases of business. I call it the slinky effect because I don't really have a better name for it. But if your fulfillment isn't productized, like what Paulson just mentioned there, what happens is you'll get a load of new clients dumped on you, and then all of a sudden you have to scramble to fix the fulfillment side of things. So in our program, we call it infinitely scalable fulfillment, where the gaps between, say, 30K a month and 50K a month get addressed, or between 50K a month and 100K a month, those things get addressed by fulfillment that's scalable, right? And you can't do that if you don't have a specific niche. Otherwise, you're scaling a mess, and it takes more and more of your time as you grow and eats into the profit margins more and more and more. So it may sound scary to pick a niche, but at the end of the day, making that decision now is what enables you to set up your price points now, so that when you're in that conversation with a prospect, like what we're about to go through here in a minute, you'll be able to say at the end of that conversation, okay, what email address should we connect with you on? And is this a phone we can text you on? Okay, great. And I'm ready to put that investment on any kind of credit card or debit card you'd like. And you type in that card number and you charge that card on the call. You can't do any of that if you haven't done what Paulson was just mentioning there. So let's talk a little bit about some fallback points when we get into the script. And we can bounce to the next slide if you want, Paulson.
Yeah, I'm not controlling it.
Oh, you're not. That's interesting because I'm not controlling.
Was it Rob? I think it was Rob.
Oh, that's right.
I just unmuted him.
Oh,
Hey.
got it.
All right, thanks. So when I muted myself, I couldn't unmute myself back. That's all that was.
That happened to me too. I was like, glass cage of emotion. Stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, glass cave. Yeah. So let me make this point. I think it's important to understand, to like give people a timeline of the journey thing. Okay. So what Paulson's saying to most of you is, if you have not hit your solvable problem yet, it's probably because you're spread too thin. Okay. You don't have to marry a niche at the beginning. Just pick one so you can get good at it fast. When you spread your resources thin, that means you kind of suck at a lot of different things. All right. Let me just be very blunt. All right. Like, you can't be good at a landscaping niche in this and that. Just pick all the different niches you can think of. If you're not good at any of them, then you're just not good at anything at the end of the day. Okay. Like understanding the sales process, even just the appointment type. Okay. Like the appointment type for a dentist is different than a landscaper. Why? Because the transaction happens where? For a landscaper, it happens at the customer's home or, in the cloud now, right? But all the sales stuff happens at the customer's home typically. Like I've never driven to a landscaper's office to pay them money to landscape my house. That's never happened. Okay. The sales process, the appointment process, the stuff, the lead generation is different for that versus the dentist. I've never had a dentist come to my house to give me dental treatment. I've always gone to their office. Okay. Does that make sense, everyone? So really simple. Like when you don't have to get married to it. Just, it's like a dating app. Okay. I'm swiping left or right to, and I've never done that, by the way. I'm old as hell, but that, you're figuring out what you want. Okay. So, but just pick one to get good at it, because it only takes a handful of clients to fix your solvable problem. You can get fancy later and or change your niche. Okay. So getting started, focus on that. Second thing is, Ryan and I have never seen someone who's had this level of success we have in the agency world, or the people who have surpassed us using our model that I mentioned in the previous two calls, without picking a niche. They've all niched down. If you're getting the 6 figures a month, you've probably freaking niched down.
At least
with rare
definitely
exception
speed.
that
At least
happens.
now speed.
Yeah, it's almost 100%. Just put it that way. Okay. So if you're going to scale to 20 grand, 50 grand, 100 grand a month, 300 grand a month, 500 grand a month, $1 million a month, you're probably niched down. Okay. And that's for a reason. So just understand that the context matters. All right. So Ryan's going to teach you, because most of the people on this call have not picked a niche and they're not at 20 grand a month or before. We're going to talk about that specific scenario here, but he's going to talk about it in the context of you picking something and sticking with it. It doesn't mean that you have to stay with it forever at this phase of your niche, of your agency, but you have to treat it like you are for this month, right? I'm going to date this person that I met this month. And if I don't like them, then I can kick them out and go back on Tinder. Okay, fine. But at least make the short-term commitment to be dedicated to this so that you can rinse and repeat a few times with a handful of clients. All right. And really important to just highlight. Okay. So, all right, I'm going to shut up now, and Ryan, let's go. Let's freaking go.
So let's imagine you picked your niche, and that enables you to stop sending proposals. And now at the end of every call, you're charging a credit card once that person reaches a point of clarity, right? Get them to clarity, charge the credit card. Let's imagine your fulfillment is set up well so that it's infinitely scalable, so that you're not doing different things for different people in all these different industries. The number one thing that we're going to talk about today, that we're going to really zoom in on, is the sales call, how to conduct that sales call. So that lays our foundation, assuming that all those things are in place. And then Rob, I think that we have a script here somewhere.
And you guys do one call close, right? That's the model
Yes.
that you guys had. And in some of your niches, just so you know, it may require a 2-call close or sometimes an in-person visit. It doesn't really matter. Take what we're teaching here today and apply it to your business based on what's going to give you the best efficiency, okay? I recommend the 1-call close when it comes to high ticket model, because like if you have to call them 3-4 times, honestly, you haven't sold them at all, right? And it's a lot of pressure on your sales guys. There's no need for an appointment setter to then transfer all this over to a closer. Like if you can really qualify those leads with surveys and VSLs and actually create that, qualifying filtration, then you have a good chance. So Ryan, what are we looking at here? The whole enchilada sales script. It's making me hungry.
So this is a sales script designed for doing for having a high ticket sales process. What I'm going to walk you through is the exact system that we've used to close many millions of dollars over the phone in one single call. We've used this format as an agency to close gym owners, and we use this same format in our coaching program, the SaaS agency. So I'm going to talk you through what we do currently in our coaching program. And Paulson, I'm of the opinion that most people on this call don't have a sales team, that most people will be doing the sales themselves, and then growing to the point of eventually developing a team, correct?
Yeah, I think that's the spirit that we can really hone into. Some people may have an appointment setter, but nothing to the extent. There's a few agencies that have, a sales team, but a lot of them are outsourced. They don't have a lot of processes, even with a bunch of people there handling sales. And just so you guys know, Ryan and Rob will talk about their programs and things like that. I recommend we're gonna have an invitation at the end of the call where you guys can jump into their Facebook groups and things like that. But at the end of the day, this is all here to just serve you, okay? But yeah, Ryan, most people don't have a massive sales team. They may be still closing themselves quite a bit.
Cool. So this is the format for the conversation. And what we have here is like, think of a trail. You want to go down that same trail over and over and over again until you know it like the back of your hand. And if your prospect wants to wander off the trail and start getting into the weeds, you're just going to bring them right back onto the trail and continue moving them towards the point of clarity and the decision process. So what we're looking to do is do that the same way every time. You'll find some people in the beginning are conducting conversations without having a format. If you don't have a format for your conversations, you need to have one starting today, because what happens is, even with the most elite sales reps, even with the most seasoned people that close hundreds of thousands of dollars per month on credit cards, one call closes, they use scripts. The reason why is because as we repeat this process, these micro replications will cause us to make little iterations and little changes, imperceptible changes. And after 100 calls, right, it's like the telephone effect. It sounds significantly different than it did after the first call. So we need to have a format like this, not to say that we're going to read every word, but to say that we're going to use it to keep us on the path and to help give us, think of like guardrails or like a swim lane, to give us the place to keep us from wandering off into the weeds, essentially. So that's why we want to use a script. You should not read it. You should know the script so well that it just reminds you of what you're getting into next. So let's imagine you've set your price point. Let's imagine you're getting people onto the phones. Let's imagine you're not sending proposals anymore and making every sales process take weeks instead of hours, right? So now you've got a scalable sales system. This is what the call sounds like. Before you get into the call, you want to make sure that you're in a quiet room, no possibilities of distractions. This is crucial for the mindset of the salesperson, because if it's possible that distractions might exist, there's a little piece of your mind that's not 100% focused on the call. Secondly, we always use headphones so that we can take notes while we're doing it. You don't want to use the computer microphone. Like what I'm doing right now is using a computer mic. And that's terrible, because if I'm typing, they're going to be hearing, it's really distracting. So use headphones. 10 minutes.
Real quick, Ryan, before you go into the script, can you give us a little bit of context to the lead? Like, are these cold leads that you're handling this with? Is this the same script you use for ads? What is the context of the temperature of the leads that you guys are handling typically?
Yeah, that's a good question. So let's imagine that an appointment setter has scheduled that lead into your calendar and you're conducting the call. Or let's imagine you scheduled that lead into your calendar and you're conducting the call. So the format before this would be, say I connected with a chiropractor and I serve chiropractors. And I'm like, hey, I might be able to help you out with your situation if you're interested in having more patients. Are you interested in having more patients? They're like, yeah, I would like to have some more patients. And I say, okay, well, what we're going to do is we'll figure out together if what I offer is a good fit for you, right? Now we're getting into, like, we could do a whole training on appointment setting, but essentially think of it like this. When you're doing your appointment setting correctly, you're generating interest to create a list of people who have raised their hand and expressed interest on some level. You're taking that list of people and following up with them until they book appointments. And the transition between someone being a lead and someone being a prospect. A lead has in some way, you have their contact information. A prospect is someone who has scheduled a call. And the way that we get people to schedule calls is we move the point of the decision to the call. That's why we don't have pricing on our website. That's why we don't text people the pricing or Facebook message them the pricing. We say, well, let's schedule a call so that we can figure out together if what we provide is a good fit, right? Move the point of the decision to the call. So they're here on this call to figure out if what I provide is a good fit for their situation. So super practical. Before the call, you want to be recording this call and you want to dial using Go High Level. Don't get into the trap of using your phone or anything else. You want to use Go High Level for this. We've used a ton of different things. There's nothing better than Go High Level. It's all there in one spot. The follow-up becomes easy. I can assign notes to the prospect's account. I can create reminders. I could talk for a long time about the system and how we use it to get the most sales possible with the least amount of time. That's what we're after. Do it in Go High Level because it'll record automatically. You want the capability of recording the calls, not so much to say, well, I said this and you said that, but because recorded sales conversations are one of the most effective tools for developing your future team and for developing yourself. I can't tell you how many hundreds of sales calls I've listened to. And what happens is when you're in the moment, this is like, everyone talks about like the armchair athlete. Like I'm watching the Super Bowl and I'm like, that was a terrible pass. Well, I'm like looking at this bird's eye view in slow motion with zero pressure. And I'm just watching the thing. And of course, my brain is going to identify what went wrong and what could have been done better next time. Well, you get to give yourself that gift. When you record your own calls, you can reevaluate those calls and identify, what did I do well to build your confidence? What could I have done better? And how will I do it differently next time, to play through in your mind's eye the way that you'll conduct it differently in a future call. That one tool alone could take your sales ability to the next level. If you don't get anything else out of this conversation other than pick a niche, use a consistent format for sales conversations, and record your sales calls, that is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars over the course of a lifetime of something like this. If that's all you take away from this, that will be worth your time today.
You guys remember when we started this off? For those of you that that watched the first video and even in the second, but do you remember open loops, right? We intentionally want for you to keep open loops so you can absorb something like this, right? Like what Ryan just told you is literally like, we've coached sales teams and they're not doing this. This pre-checklist is easy. How many of you just wrote this off and you're like, yeah, screw it. Just get, it's in the comments. You guys are in the comments like, can you please scroll down already? And I'm like, no, I will not. I'm sorry. I'll just be that guy. Like Ryan can be the good cop. I'll be the bad guy. Fine. Okay. No. Okay. The reason why Ryan is a world-class salesperson is because he uses this checklist every time. Guys, just slow down. What is the big stinking rush? Okay. Like you're going to wake up tomorrow. The sun will come up. Listen, just listen, absorb it. Like the reason why you're closed off and you don't learn from something like this is because you're trying to close the loop faster than you're ready to. I can promise you that. Like, again, I'm a stupid caveman. You're smarter than me. I promise that. I promise that you're smarter than me. Whoever asked that question, you're smarter than me. Guarantee. That's why you're trying to close the loop. You're like, learn. Okay. Resist the urge to Google. Resist the urge to close that loop and see the entire script in 3 seconds. The reason, do you guys want to know what I spend and Ryan spends 80% of our time doing in our sales department every week? Just take a guess. It's listening to sales calls. You cannot physically do a sales call and learn from your mistakes at the same time. It's iterative. You have to go back and listen to it like from a up high and looking down point of view, which is like a third person point of view. You can't physically do the two things at the same time. Whenever you hang up, you're like, it's totally off, right? You're like, I did this great and I did this terrible and I'll do this different next time. And it's just like, right? Like, it's just, Then you go back and listen and you're like, actually, no. Okay. Like if I can remove myself and look at this again, I actually did like a lot more well than I thought I did. And I actually did some things that I thought were fine that are actually terrible. So just take a second. Okay. If you don't do this, like if you have one terrible sales call and it's a no because it was your fault and you don't do this, what do you think the next call is going to be like? Right? So like, how far do you want to go down that rabbit hole? It's your time. It's not mine. You know, like I went to church there was a pastor that I really liked when I was in a youth group, and he said, it's your soul, not mine. You know, you show up to church if you want to work on your soul. Like, you know, it's not my, you know, it's all right here for you. Okay. And that's not a religious thing, neither here nor there. Ryan knows more than anyone that I need the most help in that department. But the whole point is
We'll pray
like,
for you,
how
bro.
open are you to
Put you on
receiving
the prayer
this?
list right now.
Literally the second that we started doing this, we grew to $50,000 a month. Just Ryan and I sitting next to each other. It was two people in FCA. We got to $50,000 a month because Ryan was doing the sales calls sitting next to me. I was doing all the marketing and all the business stuff. And he'd hang up the phone and we would either listen to the replay or I would give him active feedback. And that's how we got to $50,000 a month, just two people. Okay. So like, you know, he's going to go faster after this, guys, but do not do that to yourself. Don't be like, this is 3 lines and it's useless.
You know,
the best stuff we got.
The biggest takeaway I have early on from observing Ryan back in like 2016, 17 is like he was very good at setting the environment of the conversation. Okay. Whether it's an account management conversation, a customer service conversation, a group setting, a sales call, it doesn't matter. If you can set the environment properly and set an agenda, you have better control over your energy. Okay. Now, if you can control your energy, you can more than likely help them understand where they are instead of just transferring wealth and just throwing stuff at them. Right? And that's really where you want to get to, is setting the environment. So that pre-call checklist, some of us, you know, we discount some of the basic tackling and blocking when it comes to sales. And you have to pay attention to what you do at the beginning of the conversation. How many of you guys send an agenda out to a prospect? Hey, this is what we're going to talk about on the call. Well, why would they show up?
Yeah. Well, like also,
why would they show up?
Yeah. Most salespeople don't do this stuff.
Right.
So, you know, which is, it's like an immediate way to set yourself apart, which is like a side benefit. But all right, let's go. We got to get to the script.
Yeah. What's happening next after that pre-check list?
Yep.
Oh yeah, the proof is in the pudding, by the way, because this is blocking and tackling, and we blocked and tackled the simple stuff. Well, like Rob said, blocking and tackling, right? To the point of 50K a month. If you're not doing 50K a month and you're skipping that stuff. By the way, you'll see point C. I said be ready to take notes in Google Docs. That's actually outdated. We take notes in high level these days because the notes are then associated for the fulfillment team, and we can create reminders and all that stuff. You want to be ready to have the number ready to dial the moment the clock hits the minute. There is an authority that comes with this, and we recognize several percentage points difference in our connection rate if we dial the moment the clock hits the minute, besides the state of mind that it puts the salesperson in. So those are some things to keep in mind. You set that up well, and now everything else is going to be much easier. By the way, as you advance in your agency, these call recordings are going to be worth gold. When you want to hire your first salesperson, having this systematized and having 15 or 20 recorded sales calls of your prospects that you closed is what's going to equip you to hire and develop your sales team. So don't overlook this. On a mindset level, you want to be focused, tranquil, and alert. People talk about, doing a bunch of push-ups beforehand and all of these things. No, tranquil and alert is the state of mind that you need to be in. There's a lot of tricks that I can teach you about clicking into the proper emotional state and being able to have a pin on that point in your emotional map and being able to click into that gear. But I'm going to assume that you all are excellent at managing your state in sales conversations And if not, you can drop some questions about it in the Facebook group later or at the end, and we can get into it then. Let's talk a little bit about the opening. There's a couple things that I listen to in call recordings that tend to dictate the quality of the call. Number one, how good did the opening go? Number two, was there at least 30 minutes worth of needs assessment? And number three, what did the pitch sound like? If you're listening to call recordings, those 3 points matter more than anything else. So number one, in the opening, you'll hear people set this hard frame. Okay, my name is Ryan Moore. I'm here with Robb Bailey's programs. And how this call is going to go is I will ask you questions about your business. We're going to find out together if this is a good fit or not. And then at the end of this call, then I will open it up for you if you would like to ask questions at that point. How's that sound? And they'll set this really hard frame. And that's how I used to do it. You could tell I might have done it a few times. These days, I get to the point of the call very, very quickly. And I only set a hard frame like that if I have to. I almost never have to set a hard frame though, because people hear it in my tonality that I'm in control of this call, and it's the only way I will have it. There's no chance that we will get beyond point one without me being firmly in control of the call. And I'll give you my best hack for never having a prospect run over you or talk over you. Hang up on them. You do that one time, and there's something different about the way that you approach a call. If you not just think, well, if someone starts to push me around, it probably won't result in a sale. So, I probably would leave the call. That's totally different than if someone wants to push me around, they won't get the opportunity to, because I'm going to hang up. I don't just think I'm going to hang up, I've done it, right? So you approach it from a whole new space energetically when you click into that new gear. So you might have to burn one at one point. I'm going to burn this sales opportunity for the sake of my future sales opportunities, right? You'll be doing something today that your future self will thank you for, as we say in the fitness industry. So here's how it sounds. Hey, Joe, this is Ryan Moore with Robb Bailey's programs. And I'm not even going to say, how are you? I'm going to wait. I'm going to let them say, oh, hey, man, how you doing? I'm going to say, I'm great. So I'm going to ask you a couple questions about what you have going on over there, and we'll go from there. So what brought you to the call? And I'll just get right into it. I don't even need to set a hard frame. And a lot of times I'll dial it back to even less than that. Joe will pick up and I'll say, hey, Joe, this is Ryan Moore with Robb Bailey's programs. Joe will say, hey, Ryan, how are you? I'll say, I'm good. So tell me more about your situation. That is the preferred way to open the call.
Ryan, do you mind giving an example on the fitness clients? Because a lot of the folks that we have, they deal with a lot of the local businesses, right? So do you take the same approach with fitness clients, or is it the same framework? Or do you mind just going through that example?
Yeah, let's imagine Sarah owns a gym that charges $130 a month. She's got 200 members, basically breaking even, and she wants to get to about 350 members, netting, say, $15K a month, taking home $10K a month. That's her dream. And then someday she hopes that she'd be able to have a couple locations, take a few vacations while the business is still growing, right? That's our person. I call in, Sarah picks up the phone. She says, hello. Hey, Sarah, this is Ryan Moore with Fit Club Accelerator. Hey, Ryan, how you doing? Things are good. So tell me a little bit more about what's going on with your gym. That's what the opening sounds like. Keep it simple. So the first thing that we're looking to figure out after that open-ended question, because they may tell you a lot about their scenario, is I'm going to be looking to do a deeper dive into why they are there. I'm looking to figure out any low-hanging fruit in this opening if they don't just let it all loose right there. And they might be like, oh yeah, things are pretty good. I mean, I was just hoping to get some more members. Might dig a little bit deeper and I'll say, cool. So tell me a little bit more about what caught your eye with this program. And if they didn't already share any reasons why they were looking to get more members, I'll say, okay, got it. So what's the biggest challenge in your business right now? Or tell me about what's going on in your business that's not working as well as it could be, right? And that's my opening for why are you here? The second thing that we're looking to figure out is why are you here now, right? So we're in our third topic of conversation. We're looking to identify pain points in their business. And you'll see a list of questions like, how long have you had your agency? What's included in what you provide? How are you pricing that? All those sorts of things. You need to have a list of these things for your industry. This is a series of must ask questions. So the way that it would sound for dentistry, for instance, how long have you had your practice? How many patients do you have currently? What types of services do you provide most often? What types of services are most profitable for you? And how long does your average client stay with you? Okay. And what does your average client invest per year? What would you say your average client lifetime value is? And we're looking to establish the average client lifetime value for your customer. Because at the end of this, we're going to come back around and offer them an investment. And we want them to be able to think to themselves, wow, if I just get 10 new customers, this thing pays for itself, right? If I just get 5 new customers, I'm not going to lose money. So we're setting a frame here by building that in early on. So you see, how long has the business been open? What's included in what you provide? How are you pricing it? Determine the average client lifetime value. How many clients do you have right now? Okay. And what do you typically do? Okay. So in a class, this is a needs assessment style sales conversation. And in this sort of conversation, your prospect should be doing 80% of the talking and you should be doing 20% of the talking. Now, it's very common for people to be want to figure out where the revenue level of that business owner is and where the business owner would like their revenue level to be so that they can position their product to fulfill that gap, right? That's crucial. So we need to figure out where they are right now. We can't evaluate their situation and where they want to go if we don't know where they are today. But what a lot of people do wrong is they say, so what's your monthly revenue like? But notice that's not how this is phrased. You'll encounter more resistance if you do that. If I already know about what they charge, and I already know about how many clients they have, and I already know about how many clients they're adding in a month, I'm going to be able to say, so you typically do about what, like 20 to 30K a month in monthly revenue? And they'll be like, yeah, it's about 22K a month, right? By the time I ask that question, I'm able to guess at what it probably already is. Does that make sense? I can give it to you for a gym owner scenario. Like Sarah, if I'm like, how many members do you have right now? And she's got 200 members. What do you charge for membership? $150 a month, right? So she's at $150 a month and she's got 200 members. I know she's doing about 30K a month if she was charging everyone $150 a month. But I know, because I specialize in that industry, that she probably sold her first few memberships really, really inexpensively. So she's probably doing more like 23, 25, 26K a month, somewhere in that range. So I'll be like, so you're doing what, like 25K a month or so? And she'll be like, yeah, about that.
Yeah,
Right.
so one of the things I want to add on to what you're saying is what Ryan's sharing here is really how you would carry out these conversations with the right energy and things like that. For those of you that are in the fast track program already, I've shared the philosophy of the bridge program. The whole idea is doing a needs assessment test of their current desire, current situation or the current scenario, and then they have the desired scenario of where they want to be. But in between, there is a bridge, right? And on that bridge, it's you and a 5-year-old toddler, which is the prospect, that you have to walk this prospect across from their current scenario to their desired scenario. Now, on this walk, you're holding this toddler, and there's going to be some pull and some push, okay? When it comes to pulling them across, typically it's the questions around the operations, the marketing, the sales process, and every once in a while, you'll get some pushes where it's around the financial side of the business. You don't enter the financial realm of these conversations unless you get invited to enter those conversations, right? So when they do invite you, you can be like, hey, Ben, I'm glad you asked. Here's what you told me and help me understand where you're trying to go. right? So think about the current scenario and the desired scenario. There's a bridge in between, and you're walking a toddler across, and there's a push-pull thing happening in between the scripts. So if you're, I think it's like module 5 in the fast track program, and it's all free to you guys. You can take a look at it. And really, it really complements and shares what Ryan's sharing here, because remember, Ryan's doing a one call close, which probably is going to be 20, maybe 30, barely 40 minutes. It's going to be short, if anything. But it's different than the 5-minute call, then a Zoom call, right? It's not an intro, then a Zoom call. So in this scenario, you've got to achieve a lot more real quick. So you got to be really conscious of how you move this toddler. Okay? So we talked about why they're there. Then we were talking about why they're there now, meaning now we're trying to figure out their purchase cycle, not just understand that they're on a sales cycle, right? Go ahead, Ryan. I just wanted to add that on there because
So
this.
let me hop in real fast, Paulson, because for those of you that were on the first call, okay, the reason why we were able to do 535 one call closes, largely, I think we did a handful that weren't one call, okay, but we stayed in this green foundational part of the pyramid, which was enough. Okay. So what is enough? Why does the one call close work? All right. It's because if we're just targeting this bottom bucket, Ryan is like, you'll see Ryan's asking all these questions, but the reason why this is working is because at some point he's going to figure out what's enough for them. All right. And the reason why we don't do 2 call closes or demos or proposals is because Ryan probably already knows what they're going to say. Okay. Right. At some point he's going to, and when they say it, he's going to go Yahtzee because it checks the enough bucket. All right. Which is what is enough for the average small business owner. If you can quickly, profitably, predictably fill their calendar with more sales opportunities in an efficient way, that's all you need. Okay, to hit this. So Ryan is not going to be their therapist and ask about all of their questions. To Paulson's point, if they never even bring up the financial side, what can Ryan assume? That if they are on the call with you, they do not have this bucket filled, which is enough. Okay, which means they're not doing DR or not doing it successfully. And like I said last time, okay, in the packaging and pricing, you can just assume that they have not done that. Therefore, they're on the call with you. Okay. Why would someone be on the call with you if they didn't have this bucket filled yet? They just wouldn't be. Okay. So don't get intimidated about, like, a lot of people are like, oh, I'm afraid to ask for numbers, or they ask for numbers, then they get too aggressive. And the client's like, why are you being so intrusive? Guys, it's a simple checkbox. Do they have enough filled or not? The fact that they're on the phone with you already tells you the answer to that. Okay. So be careful with going too deep into this stuff. Ryan is just like, if you hear Ryan's sales call, all this is very smooth. It's very conversational. It's very non-intrusive. All right.
Like a friend would
like
tell
he doesn't even ask all these questions. He asks a couple of them, then the box gets ticked and he moves on because he's like, all right, I get it. Okay. Like, fine.
Well,
Thank you
the
for
main
sharing
thing that I
that.
want to figure out is where are you now? And I
Right.
need to ask enough questions to know, okay, here's where you are right now.
Right.
And think about it this way. If you go to the doctor and you're like, I'm sick, and the doctor's like, well, tell me about your symptoms, you do, right? In this conversation, you are the doctor and you're like, tell me about your symptoms. If your expectation is that they're going to be open with you, then you will experience that most of the time. And I would say that if you're not getting their current revenue level comfortably, having them share that with you, if you're not getting that, then you're taking a huge chunk out of the number of sales that you will make that year. If you're not getting where they are now in terms of revenue, you will not be doing a good needs assessment and you won't get as many sales as you could be. So I ask these questions. They share with me their revenue because it's a comfortable conversation. I want to know what they've done to fix it and all these things. The next thing that I'm looking to figure out is where they would like to go. And that sounds like, okay, so you're currently doing 20K a month. Let's fast forward into the future. Tell me about what you'd like this business to be doing. What does that look like for you? And I'll just let them go. Like, I'll let them go for a while. And if I need to ask some of these specific questions that you can read here in the script, I will, to draw more out. But quite often, like Rob is saying, that first question, especially if I get enough detail in this first section, they're going to be marching to the beat of my drum at this point, and they're just going to open up and share the stuff.
In
So
other words, you don't have to ask everything that's on this list. If you get the answer that you want, then you can kind of forego the rest that are in this section and you go on to the next section of the, right? Is that what you're saying, Ryan?
Yep, exactly.
Boom. Okay.
So let's imagine this gym owner is making 20K a month. This gym owner wants to get to 40K a month, right? 20K a month, they're barely covering overhead. 40K a month, they're taking some money home. And then fast forward into the future, they'd like to have multiple locations, right? So then I'm going to move on to my next section after I understand where they want to go and why they want to go there. Why is it that you're interested in getting to 40K a month? Well, then I'll be profitable. Okay, and what about that is important to you? Well, then I'll be able to X, Y, and Z. So be careful here in this section number 4, where would you like to be? It's not just the raw goal. It's why does that goal matter to you, right? And if you're working with more solo entrepreneurs, people will be a lot more open about their emotional state around these topics. Think about like individual plumbers or landscaper guys or gym owners, chiropractors, dentists. Think about all the guys that have small businesses, it's them and a helper. They're going to be a lot more open with you about the emotional front. If you're working in markets where business owners are more established, like a chiropractor who has multiple locations or a roofer who has 5 trucks in the field, they're going to be more open with you about the numbers side of it and the profitability side of it, and less open with you about the emotional side of it. So when I say, why are you interested in getting this business to 250K per month? They're going to say, well, we can get 2 more trucks in the field. And if we can get 2 more trucks in the field, then we're going to be utilizing our assets a little bit better. We'll be a little bit more profitable. And I can get to the point where I hire that GM and this business is continuing to grow while I do other things, right?
And a lot of times the emotional side, I will add this just color comment, Ryan, is because they want their team to be taken care of, right? Like those last 2 fringe guys that they have who've been part-time or they haven't had enough jobs to fill those last 2 trucks, or the dentist is like, I've got 3 seats open in my, whatever, right? It's about their team first, right? They want to keep their payroll full. They want to retain talent. They want those people to feel comfortable and well served, right? Before their needs are met. Because like by that point, they already, but you think about a practice owner or a contractor who's got multiple trucks, keeping their people fed and keeping them happy is a big part of their mental bandwidth every day and their financial bandwidth, right? Like how many times have we heard, oh, I want to keep the rent paid, keep my insurance paid, keep my payroll paid before they talk about their own needs, if it's not a solopreneur, right? Like a lot. But you can, again, guys, this is like part of the script where you have to pick that up and be like, all right, I'm not going to sit them on the therapist couch. They don't want to do that, right? Like of course they do. They wouldn't still be open today if they didn't care about taking care of their team first, right? So getting the why, if they answer that why and they don't get personal about it for themselves, it is personal to them that they're keeping their trucks well fed, for lack of a better term. Does that make sense? Or their chairs full. They're keeping their people employed and their customers happy all in the same stroke before they think of themselves. That a lot of small business owners are like that, right?
Yeah. Also on that note, one of the things that I always observe is like a lot of sales guys here on this piece of trying to put together where they're trying to be, they'll put external issues to the client. For example, hey, you can beat the competition, or because somebody else is doing something in your franchise, let's look outwardly of what you're not doing, right? So that becomes a negative presupposition where if you help them understand internally what they can do, it's even better positioning for you to help them get to that scenario. So don't be naive and just say, oh, your competition down the line is doing so much better and you're not doing XYZ. It's just not a good energy that you're setting up for, because now what they're focused on is external distractions. Oh, that guy's doing SEO. Then all of a sudden now you got to go sell SEO magic dust. and we all know where that goes, right? So
Yeah.
be careful of how you position this. This is a great way to filter the level of the client, right? You can understand what their philosophy or perspective on money is, their philosophy on their family, their philosophy of who they are. Do they take breaks? Are they fitness oriented people, right? This is where you got to figure out, is this chef really good at the cooking, right? Are they good at the products? Do they believe in the business? Is this a temporary thing that they have going on? So just as much as you're qualifying them, you're qualifying both sides equally on the section.
So we asked, what brought you to the call, to identify any low-hanging fruit. We got to the topic of where are you now? What have you tried to fix it? We got to where would you like to be, right? Tell me about your goals. Tell me about why you would like to be there. Now we're going on to our fifth category where we're saying, what's keeping you from getting there on your own? Now we know they're not getting there on their own. That's why they showed up. And on a certain level, they know that they're not doing a good job or they're not interested in getting there on their own. And that's why they showed up on this call. But if they express it to me in their words, it carries so much more weight than my words. So the way I'll say it is, all right, Sarah, you're at 20K a month, looking to get to 40K a month. Tell me what's keeping you from getting to 40K per month on your own. And by the way, this is fast, like visual type language. We call this visual communication, where our energy levels are higher. Typically, we're speaking in some of the higher vocal registers, like more nasal or more airy type tonality. When I'm in a sales conversation, I'm going to use what's called kinesthetic communication, not visual, but kinesthetic. The rate of speech slows down, the tonality slows down, and the easiest way to click into that gear, I'll give you an exercise for it right now, is to take one single diaphragmatic breath, and you'll hear the difference in tonality. So Sarah, you're 20K a month right now, and you're looking to get to 40K per month. Tell me what's been keeping you from getting there on your own. You just slow it down. Relaxing, slow, steady pace, be comfortable with the silence. And when I start talking like this, I'm more likely to sound nervous and less likely to sound confident. So if you're recognizing that in your sales conversation, take a deep breath from your diaphragm and start speaking from your gut. Speak from your gut, not from up here. All right, anyway, let's get back into the teaching mode.
It's like versus the New York City taxi cab driver, like, so Sarah, like, what's the that thing? And there's like horns honking in the background, and then she's just like, oh my God. Right? Like, do you guys see how that matters in a sales conversation? Like, you're so good at this, Ryan. My dumb behind would be my stupid ASS. Like, I'm just like so impatient. I'm like, oh my God, get to it already. So what's preventing you from getting there? Because you guys already know the answer. Okay, but you can't say it. They have to say it. This is sales. Okay, this is the therapy part. Like, you can't go into like a therapy session with the therapist saying, I already know everything that's wrong with you. I've heard this 1,000 times, dog. Like, you can't do that.
Ryan,
Right?
Rob, can I ask the crowd a simple question? And I want to really drive a point home that Ryan said, to speak from the gut, right? Honestly, if you don't believe in the service you provide, it's not easy to speak from the gut. If you don't believe in a delivery that you can quantify, it's not easy to speak from the gut. If you have never marketed yourself and generated leads and built your own agency before, and you're now providing that as a service to the clients, it's not easy to speak from the gut. If you don't have a sales process that's buttoned up where you're reviewing your process to improve yourself, it's not easy to speak from the gut. If you don't believe in serving this industry just flat out as human beings, it's not easy to speak from the gut. So I'm going to urge all of you to make some serious life decisions. And it's just not about high level or the software. Like, I can care less. You guys know I'm not a techie. None of that stuff impresses me. You guys are a lot more smarter than I am when it comes to this. But make some decisions, because it's impossible to serve these clients at these levels, even if you have, like, you can't meditate your way into good offers. You can't just work out your way into great businesses. Okay? And Ryan, I think you asked if you can share the screen. You have control, right? Just want to double check.
No, actually, Rob's doing the screen share for me. I
Okay,
think I'm
okay,
in as a
cool. As long
participant.
as you guys doing your thing. But I just wanted to speak to your hearts when it comes to being able to serve these clients because it's not easy. Like Ryan knew and trust that Rob is going to fulfill. That team is back there where Ryan could be on that battleground and just really be selective on his energy and offers and really the sales conversations.
It actually takes more confidence to let the client answer and less clients for you to answer it for them, right? So let the client, like Ryan's really good at this, give them the time and space to answer, and like your confidence in speaking slow and then shutting up and letting them answer is like sneaky confident on your part, right? They're like, geez, that person gave me the time and space and came in with it's just, it's so like, it's so refreshing for them to like, cause think about it. No one ever like the yellow versus the yellow pages salesman or the New York City taxi driver, like mentality, or the pushy car salesman, used car salesman mentality, right? Ryan is so, it's wicked. Like, we actually, Ryan and I determined this. It's not, um, this is not unknown out there in the sales world, but I came up with this thing. I'm like, dude, if I talk more than the client does, I don't get the sale. If if I talk less than the client does and give them the room and space, we get the sale. And then Ryan takes that to the extreme. He's like, dude, I don't talk. I mean, a lot of times he's just on the phone with the button muted and gives them the time and space to talk. And 70% of the time they're talking, 30% of the time he's just asking good questions and getting out of his own way. And that's when we started to be on fire in our agency with one call closes. Okay.
Yep.
So
So what's the timeline here in the temperature check? Oh,
we don't,
Yeah.
so like Ryan's really, this is another, like, I'm going to stroke your ego all day, bro. He doesn't do any of that stuff.
yeah. I'm
Right.
going off the script of what's there.
No,
What's
but I
the,
know, but
Oh.
he moves through this at the pace that the client allows him to.
Oh yeah.
Right. So I don't want to give you guys like something hard and fast, but again, if he gets the answer that he needs for them to mentally check the box, he just moves on in the next section. Sometimes people stick on section 4 for most of the call and then they blaze through the rest because he's got what he needs.
Yeah.
And other times it's in a different section. Okay. But he controls the conversation by mentally checking the boxes that he needs for them to hit that enough bucket and hit that, basically are they a good fit for database reactivation? And does he feel like that will cover the enough bucket? That's what all this is designed to do. But the tricky thing about the one call close, we're not rushing through this. We're allowing the person to arrive at where they need to be in order for us to help them.
Mhm.
And that pace is completely determined by the two things: the client filling the gaps with all this stuff, and for Ryan to control the conversation and move it quickly when it needs. Like, okay, that bucket's checked. I'm not going to drag this out any longer. I'm moving on to the next section. And them allowing him to control the conversation in that way, where they think that they're in control and they have the space and time, but Ryan's really just guiding the conversation, aka he's really in control, right? It's a bit of a, it's a bit of a, Ryan moves away and gives them the space and they feel comfortable and they're drawn in, right? If Ryan pushed harder, a lot of times that's what they're expecting and they move farther away. And that's when it turns into a 2-hour, 3-hour thing. I need a proposal. I need to check with this. I need 78 calls to close this thing, right? So it's a little bit counterintuitive to do it this way. I promise you build this one skill. It's so good, right? He's not talking about tech. He's not talking about high level. He's not doing a demo. It's so refreshing for them and for you. So, so there is no hard and fast rule with this. That's also the beauty of it though, right? That's why so going back to the first paragraph, why would you want to, go back and review these? Because the first time you might be terrible at this, but this is the gold right here. is, did I give that person the time and space to answer the questions and give me the answers to the test? That's what this does. It's not up to you, dummy. It's not your ego, dummy. I'm the dummy. Okay. I used to do it differently. Ryan was like, just shut up and get out of the way, bro. Right? Like, if you listen to the call, you just get so excited. Oh, I'm so smart. I'm going to tell you what the right way to do it is. That's what every salesperson does. Just get the freaking heck out of your own way and let them answer the dang questions. It can usually it's like 15, 20 minutes. They're giving you all this stuff if you do this right. It's beautiful, right? So, sorry, keep going, Ryan.
So they explained to me what's keeping them from getting there on their own. And people will always, they say, well, I could, but I just want to get there faster. Or I could, but like, I don't have enough time to do all this. Or I just really don't know how to do the marketing. Or I just have tried and it's been problems. So I just really want someone, so they will fill that gap in. And that's why it says long pause right there, because I'm reminding myself as the salesperson to exercise self-control and keep my mouth closed and let them talk it out themselves. Their reason for not doing it on their own is so much more valuable to them than my reason for them not doing it on their own. And that's what I'm letting them fill in. We move on to the timeline. I asked them, all right, well, what does your timeline look like for making progress on getting to 40K a month? And they tell me, if I've done this needs assessment well, most of the time they're going to say, I'm looking to do something right away or as soon as possible. If they say anything other than right away, some version of that, I'm going to say, what's keeping you from making progress on this sooner rather than later? And I'll figure out what that is. Because I don't want to say, hey, man, it's going to cost you 5K. And they're like, cool, well, I'm going on vacation next week. Can I start in a month? I want to know that before I present the offer, right? Because anytime we attempt to address an objection after presenting price, it's 2 to 3 times as hard. We do this well, and we draw out any things that might be objections before presenting price, and it's so much easier to address here. Then we move on to a temp check, and I'll say, great. Something along these lines where we're just mildly trying to check in and see how they're feeling about everything. And I'll say, great. What we do when we work with a chiropractor like you is we bring them a bunch of sales opportunities in the least amount of time possible from a few different sources. Have you ever worked with a marketing company like this before? Or what have your experiences been like in the past? I might hear a little bit about their situation, just engage with them one last time. And they'll fill in that gap. And I'll say, great. So here's what we do. And this pitch is going to be different for you all because you're going to be in a different industry. You're going to be positioning it differently, but there's 2 main ways to present your pitch. One is the ultra short version. The ultra short version should be a maximum of 45 seconds. And I'll tell you, when I'm doing pitch reviews for clients, I actually read it in proper tonality and I time it. I start a timer on my phone and I say, great. So what we will do is we're going to bring you a bunch of sales opportunities in the first few weeks right away without any ad spend at all. Then we're going to continue to generate leads for you into the future. And the entire time we will book the appointments. So all you have to do is close the sales. What questions do you have about that? That's what the short pitch sounds like.
Ryan, quick question. So when you say pitch, what you're talking about is the offer presentation when it's the right appropriate time within the whole environment of the conversation. And you could either keep it real short or keep it long. But what you're talking about is offer presentation when it's the right time. You've talked about all the objections that you can possibly knock out before this presentation of the offer. Yeah. Right? And you've already been proactive, and then you're already confirmed the timeline of whether this offer is valid to present, and then you're going to snipe right in the right time. Is that right?
So here's how it sounds if we get into the bird's eye overview so we can get a sense of where we are in the call. What Sarah just said to me here in timeline question number 6 Oh yeah, I'd like to get more members as soon as possible. And when I did a temp check here in question 7, I say, okay, we might be able to help you out with that. However, and this is what Rob was talking about. However, when we work with a gym owner client, we expect them to have enough team members available to handle a minimum of 15 new additional prospects per week. Is that something your team would be able to handle? Oh, yeah. We can handle 15 new prospects. Okay, now I go into present the solution. And that's where you have this last underline here. Okay, well, based on everything we've been over, I can definitely help you out with your scenario. Would you like me to give you an overview of how it works? And they'll say, yes. Tell me how it works. And then I say, what we're going to do is bring you a bunch of opportunities in through the doors without any ad spend at all. We're going to run advertising for you to generate new leads. We'll do the appointment booking for you so that all you have to do is close sales. What parts of that would you like to know more about? Now that's the short pitch, right? That's version 1. And that's where everyone should start. If you haven't closed 100 customers at least, then you should be in that where you provide the shortest possible version of the pitch and allow their questions to draw out what you provide details to. Everybody has about a 45-second to a minute and a half time span of listening to another person at this point in a conversation like this. So you got to stay on the short end. List it off in about 45 seconds and say, what parts would you like to know more about? They will ask questions. You'll answer it with the least amount of words possible. Like if they say, are you going to run the ads for us and manage the budget? Will you be able to run Instagram ads and Facebook ads? Will you do video ads as well as picture ads? My temptation as a salesperson is to go into a long explanation of how cool we are and how much better we are. Don't do that. If they ask you a question like that, you say one word answer as often as possible. Yes. And then you wait for the next question. You allow them to draw out questions. You answer what they want to know about. Short offer. There's a slightly more advanced strategy. Let me be real. There's a more advanced strategy where you would break down your offer into anywhere between 3 to 5 different pillars. So pillar 1 looks like this, and you would explain database reactivation in 30, 45 seconds. What questions do you have about that? Answer it. Pillar 2 is explain lead generation in 30 to 45 seconds. What questions do you have about that? Pillar 3, you would explain things that you would do to get them additional referrals or improve their reviews or all of these things. And whatever things are included, you might work through them pillar by pillar.
Do you guys remember when we had our pricing and packaging, and there's only like 1 to 3 things in there? Your 1 to 3 things are your pillars. Okay. Because all we're trying to do is fill the enough bucket. Okay. We're not trying to get fancy and build something custom. It's like, okay, you told me what you want, the problem that you want solved, and the timeline you want it solved in. Okay. Let me just break this down. What Ryan's talking about is keeping it so damn simple. It's stupid, right? Okay. You haven't got it done on your own yet. So what you're saying is if you haven't basically filled your calendar with enough sales appointments to keep you busy, if all we did was that would solve your problem. Correct? Yes. Okay. And I'm hearing you. You reiterate it back to me. And you just said that your timeline is to get it done pretty much ASAP, right? And if it's not ASAP, then what's to prevent you from, why why not now, basically? Well, I'm going on vacation. Okay, but we can get started on that sooner than later. There's no reason why you shouldn't get started on this, right? So you just kind of handle those 2 micro objections, right? If we can get that done, does it sound like, this is a good time to get started? And if I can do that for you, does that sound like something you're going to have a high level of interest in? Yes. Okay, great. So notice what we haven't talked about: tactics, tech, things like that, because our goal is to hit the enough bucket. Okay. They're overcomplicating it. That's why they haven't hit their goal. All right. They think it's going to take all this stuff. That's why they're trying to push it off. It doesn't. Okay. So when you present the solution, Okay. It's not tactics. It's not tech. It's not SEO. It's not pay-per-click. It's not any of this stuff. They want more sales opportunities to come at their doorstep. That's the part where you just have to be confident that you know what that is. And if you're not confident, I'm telling you, that's what it is.
Hey, Rob, are you
It's just,
telling me that if I'm selling SaaS, I can't come to you and be like, hey, for $500 a month, I'll do triggers and campaigns and SMS
that's the
marketing and
easiest way to kill the deal.
chatbots?
It's the easiest freaking way to kill it. I
Yeah.
know other people will disagree with me. I'm telling you, my stupid butt, I don't do tech, right? Like, shocker, guys, I don't even know how to log into our own high level account.
We have a two, we have
I mean,
a
I can if I figured it out. Like, I've got a LastPass and stuff, but I don't log into it. I can sell it without ever logging into the software. It's easier and better that way for the client and for you.
we set up that two-factor authentication just for guys like myself.
Oh my
and
God, dude. It's like I literally typed to Haplin. Oh my God. I seriously do not know how to log in now. Can you help me?
But it's a great point that we have to speak to the result of the client, right? Like if you're dealing with realtors, the
It's
goal
always
is
this.
5 new deals.
And
If
and
you're
in
talking to
fact,
memberships, yeah, go ahead.
the higher, like the better that you get at business, the higher of the echelons, it's more about this, not less. Okay. Like it's counterintuitive. I get that. All right. But I taught Ryan how to do high ticket sales in our niche by teaching him this dumb caveman stuff. Like, I sold him Facebook ads without talking about Facebook ads. I mean, we talked a little bit about it, but I'm like, look, Ryan, what is your, so this might be a light bulb moment. So let's just pause here for a moment. When I was selling Ryan Facebook ads in the gym, do you think that he wanted to talk more about Facebook ads? Like, do you think that he wanted me to crucify him about all the things that he was doing wrong about Facebook ads? No. He turned his screen around and said, what am I doing wrong? Because he just cared about more people doing what? Coming into the gym so he could sell them face to face. What is Ryan really good at as the sales director of a gym? Like most small business owners are. The one competency they know they have is if you just put people in front of me, I know I can close more people.
Yeah. I
Right?
didn't care if
Whether
you
that's,
ever done it with carrier pigeons or smoke signals or how you were going to do it. All I cared about was the people in through the doors.
guess who was the most beloved gym member at Point Loma Sports Club? And there's like tens of thousands of them. When I walked through I was treated like a king.
Yeah.
Rob, can I get you an extra bottle of water? Do you have a clean towel on your treadmill, Rob? Rob, how's that going? Is your knee feeling okay today? I mean, Ryan and everyone knew who I was on the staff because they're like, that's the guy who brings more people so that we can close them. My commission check is getting higher, right?
Mhm. Absolutely.
Because Rob is bringing me the thing that I need. No one cares about that other stuff, guys. It's just like so simple. Like when you figure this out, it becomes shockingly simple.
Yeah.
So when you present the solution, you have to see the forest through the trees and get out of your own damn way and just be like, if I can just bring more people to this person's doorstep, they will do what this makes sense for them by the end of this. Okay.
Guys,
So
as we get ready to close pretty soon here, we got about 15 minutes left. We're going to do a Q&A. I want you to put down the most important questions that you may have that is not around what we already talked about or anything around fulfillment. Tomorrow we're going to talk about fulfillment.
Yep.
If you have specific questions around sales, put those questions down, and I'm expecting hundreds of questions. I'm gonna pick the best questions that I believe is relevant, so we can knock those out the last 15 minutes. Okay, just so you guys know. Go ahead, guys.
and it's just, again, like be comfortable keeping the loop open. That's how you actually absorb this stuff. That's how you actually learn, right? Your attempt is to go, well, what about fulfillment? We're going to cover that tomorrow. So just chill, keep that loop open for today. All right.
Yeah.
Trust that we're going to teach you how to do that. Cause I promise you we will. Promise you we already, know how to have that figured out. Okay. And it's a reliable system that's been repeated a bunch of gajillion times. Okay. Sit in this understanding that, like, what if, just riddle me this, Batman, what if you had fulfillment already figured out? What if you already knew that you could charge $5,000? Guess what? It's true. We've already done it. We've proven that. Okay. So don't freak yourself out unnecessarily over that stuff. It's coming. It's already been figured out. This is another mind F that happened to me. One of my mentors asked me this one day because I was overcomplicating the crap out of something. I was trying to jump around, like, some of the questions that indicate that some of you may be doing. And this guy who does about $100 million a year, I paid to be in this crazy ass coaching program. And he just said, Rob, look at, like, I understand they're good questions. They're not bad questions. Okay, Rob, but what if everything in business was already figured out? Everything that you're asking was already figured out, meaning it's not your job to like try and figure this stuff all out. Rob, what if the world was like that? And I said, well, what do you mean? And he's like, everything that you're asking has already been figured out by someone else in business. Right. And I literally, like, I came home from that event, and Ryan and I were business partners at the time. And I was like, dude, like, you have to figure this out for yourself. I'm going to fly you out to this thing next time it happens, because if all that you do is figure that out, by the time you come home, it's a new world that opens up to you. Meaning, why would you try and go create the wheel on your own if the wheel already exists? It's already out there. Okay. And so once you figure that out and you just take that, you just are like, I believe that the wheel already exists. I believe that anyone can replicate it. I don't have to figure that out. You spend so much time, so much less time, energy, money, time, energy, sleepless nights, time, energy, trying to create the dang wheel when it's already out there. Okay.
Yeah.
It's like this in business. That's super common. We like to think that we're special. I'm super not special. For 10 years, I thought that I was like, I'm going to figure everything out on my own. Right. When Ryan sells, you'll hear this. Okay. Like, you will hear this when you hear someone who sells the solution. You'll be like, that sounded like magic. And it'll be like, that sounded like he just created the wheel. Well, no, it's just already been figured out that people buy when you provide them the solution to their problem. And that solution is usually a lot less than you think it is. It's less fancy. There's less moving parts. It's just enough.
Let's
I know how to get you enough, right? So that's literally, guys, like, our offer is literally, you're just saying, look, you haven't done it on your own. We're going to help you do that faster, better, and cheaper than you could on your own. And when we say that we can help you fill your calendar, and you say, like, we allowed you to say, like, I believe you, Rob. I believe you, Ryan. You're going to be able to provide that to me. That's when Ryan says, okay, well, would you like to move forward? If we take all the risk away and we can help you fill your calendar without ad spend, Mr. Client, and we're going to do it using these 1 to 3 things, would that be a good situation for you? Yes. Okay, great. Let's get started. What credit card would you like to put that on? That's literally all he's doing here. All right, guys. It's the key to the one call close, is keeping it simple. I know there's a lot of words on the screen. Does it take a little practice? Yes. But this is the skill, the one skill set that anyone can learn to sell high ticket, is providing a solution to a business owner that they cannot provide to themselves. And that's it. That's literally it. Right. So sorry, I just had to kind of like try to bring that around, because I know we've been talking for a long time. But Ryan's very good at this because he just keeps it simple, and he allows them to guide the conversation with some bumpers on. He controls the conversation and allows them to do this. And by the end, half the time, they're just like, all right, so what does it take to get started, Ryan? It's like that.
So what's the next thing that happens, Ryan? So you've got them set up, and you know that you're now sniping. You've got an offer presentation.
Yep.
The client has heard what the offer is, and so let's go back to the scenario of my marketing company. We work with gym owners in my marketing company, and we're still presenting to Sarah. And let's see. So what'll happen is Sarah will say, yeah, tell me about that. I explain the offer. And then from the offer, I'll say, what parts of that do you want to know more about? Right. So we're going to do this, this, and this. What parts of that do you want to know more about, Sarah? Sarah's going to ask those questions. And eventually she will get to the point where she asks me how much it costs. You'll be shocked. 9 times out of 10 with this system, the owner, you will not be telling the owner how much it costs. They will be asking you. Right. And we onboard clients in my marketing agency, and we charge $7,500 upfront for month 1 for gym owners currently, right now in the pandemic, in my marketing company. So you can do this. You know, what I'm about to tell you with price points may sound out of the range of what you're currently doing. But if I can do that with gym owners in the pandemic, you can do that in your industry too.
Ryan, you're our sales director, but you and your wife own an agency that your wife largely owns and operates on a day-to-day basis. And this is how you close actively today in the field in your own agency that you co-own with her.
Yes.
That's the context. We didn't say that before. So I just want to catch people up on what you're talking about.
Yeah, ahead. My wife runs the agency, and you know, I'm involved in it a couple hours a week, but she's the boss there. And so this is the exact format that we're currently using. So this is not something that did work at some point. It's what we are using today. And so Sarah will say, well, how much does it cost? And I'll say, the way that it works is we charge this much upfront to cover the first 3 months, and this much per month ongoing after that, all month to month. And you can get started whenever you want at that regular price, or if you'd like to get started today, the upfront will come down to just this much, right? So you heard let me put it into some actual numbers for you. You should be charging something like 5 to 10K upfront, depending on your industry, depending on what you include in your fulfillment. But let's say for fitness, it's normally $9,800 upfront. And if you want to get started today, it'll come down to just $7,500 to cover the first 3 months, and then $1,500 per month from there. So that price point of $7,500 to cover the first 3 months is the on-the-call incentive if somebody gets started on this call. Now, I'll give you a word of fair warning with on-the-call incentives. If you're offering high-ticket things like 15K and above, I don't offer price incentives on those sorts of offers. I don't recommend that. If you're offering something that's in the range of 5 to 10K upfront, you can generally offer an on-the-call incentive, especially in markets that are not really, really sophisticated, meaning they don't have teams and CEOs and mid-level management and all these types of things. But as long as they don't have that, you can offer an on-the-call incentive. And if you're charging less than 5K upfront, you should definitely be offering an on-the-call incentive. Charge the first 3 months upfront and charge a month-to-month rate thereafter. What this does for you is you have your price point, 10K to cover the first 3 months. If you get started today, it'll come down to just 6K to cover the first 3 months. If you have to fall back to a downsell, your first downsell isn't taking money out of your pocket or removing services. Your first downsell is a 2-pay. You see what I just did there? Like somebody wants to get started and they want to get started today for a total of 6K to cover the first 3 months. And they're like, well, I would, but I just can't afford it. And I'm like, okay, great. I know this question is in there already. How do I address the objection of I can't afford it when a client says I can't afford it? So I'm going to go ahead and answer that question right now because I'm sure that's in there. When a customer says I can't afford it, number one, great, no big deal. But just out of curiosity, besides not being able to afford it, is there anything else that would keep you from getting started? Step one, isolate the objection. And they're like, nope, if I could afford it, I would totally do it. I'm like, okay, well, tell me about this. On a scale of 1 to 5, how good of a fit is this for you, all money aside? And they'll say, well, 5 out of 5 or 4 out of 5 or whatever they say. Whatever number they say, I'm going to ask them why. If they say less than a 5 out of 5, I'm going to say why. They'll explain it. And I'll say, what would make it a 5 out of 5? I'll address those things and come back to temperature check again. And when they say, well, it's a 5 out of 5 good fit for me, I say, why? And they explain, well, because you're going to book the appointments and that's all I'll just take care of those people and make the sales, and you book the appointments, you generate leads. It's just a perfect fit for me. I'm like, okay, if I can set up something that works for your financial plan, would you be ready to get started if it makes a lot of sense? They'll say yes. And I'll say, great. What's the most you could invest up front to get started with something like this? And I'll allow them to tell me what they have available to invest in this program. And my upfront offer was 6K to cover the first 3 months. Quite often, my first downsell is 3K today and 3K in 30 days. Still the same 6K, but they only have to pay 3K up front. My next downsell after that, if I have to have a third fallback, guess what? I'm still not giving them a discount. It's a 3Pay. 2K today, 2K in 30 days, 2K in 30 days after that, right? So in doing so, you have to offer a high ticket price, collect the revenue up front so that before you do any fulfillment, you have the inflow in cash, and you do this in one call as often as possible. And sometimes it'll go to 2 calls, but if you don't send proposals, and if you have your price points already set up and you have your on the call incentive already set up, you'll probably spend at least 50% less time in sales conversations, which gives you time to grow your business, provide better results to your clients, manage your team better, and grow this thing to a point where it's self-sustaining, so that it's producing income while you're doing other things. Also, do we have time for a couple questions here?
We do. What I'm gonna do is, guys, I know we started, I think, like 10 minutes late. We were just getting a lot of the streaming set up, so we'll extend it for another 10 minutes. Just on Ryan's point, one of the biggest things that happen in the agency life, okay, the first couple of months, it's normal to struggle in your sales. Like, the popcorn doesn't pop all the way until like one weekend. Like, you'll just land like 3-4 clients and you don't even know how that happened. And the reason why that happens is, over those 2 months, you've got repetition and you've got this sense of confidence, and also you get more practice in what you're doing. So now, as objections come your way, you'll get to a world of being able to practice prevention, right? Like, prevention is better than cure when it comes to any scenario, right? So you'll get to a world where, like, you can jump on a call with the guy within first 30 seconds, you already know he's going to pull out the excuse of, I got to ask my wife. You can feel that energy. Or they'll say financially or timeline wise, oh, I got to worry about this team, that team. You'll be able to get that knack and that instincts of what type of objections that's going to come your way. So when you get to the point of offers, that presentation, if you are seeing a lot of different objections come your way, more than likely it's your fault. It's not even the client or the process. It's how you're managing the process through for this client. Okay? If you're seeing random objections all the time and you're just seeing different energies, you're more than likely not listening to the phone calls. You need to listen and review those phone calls and figure out what are the things you can handle better. Okay, so really focus in on the prevention. I promise you, popcorn will pop. It takes a little bit of time, and all of a sudden you'll feel more comfortable with those offers. Okay, let's go through some Q&As. I know a couple of the slides that we skipped over was around prospecting. Okay,
Yeah.
and what we're gonna
go to 5 sales type category.
Yeah, you wanna just brace over that real quick before we go into Q&As. I think that'll be a bit more helpful for the crowd, and then we'll cut the Q&A down to like 5 minutes instead of 10 minutes, because we'll have Q&A tomorrow as well. But let's go through those the 5 piece, I think you call it. Was it?
So there's a section that I see a lot of people get hung up in, and it's between 0 and 5 sales. And what I see a lot of people struggling with there is, partially a confidence element, partially, there's a lot of things that go into it. But in order to get past the point of the first 5 sales, you've got to acknowledge something. First off, your first 5 sales are going to be your most difficult sales ever. They're going to be hard.
I'm
Don't go
sorry to
after.
interrupt. I'm sorry to interrupt, Ryan. I think Rob, that's slide 57, right?
Is it? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
Yeah,
good.
here you go. There, go ahead,
Good,
Ryan.
Ray.
Yeah.
Yeah. Getting those first 5 sales, they're going to be the hardest sales that you ever close. Those are the most challenging ones. But once you get through the first 5, then you'll have some momentum. So let me point out what I am going to recommend you have by the end of your first 5 sales to make it easy to keep things moving forward. So first off, you want to have a couple testimonials. Secondly, you want to have become well practiced with your script and comfortable with it. And thirdly, you want to have systems going into place for how those people are winding up on the phone with you so that they can be replicated by others, right? Those 3 things by the end of your first 5 sales: a sales process, a process for producing appointments that other people can start to take over, and testimonials. Those video testimonials make a huge difference in the sales process. Now, before you have those things, it's the most difficult thing ever. So knowing that you're going into a challenging thing, rather than getting into it halfway through and being like, man, this is hard. Halfway through, you're going to be like, I knew this would be hard. And you're going to have the mentality to keep going. When Rob and I first started that agency, I remember that it took us several months to get our first sale. And once we made that first sale, we also made several other sales and got, I think the first month that we made our first sale, we also got to like $38,000 that month. And then the next month was like, $40,000. And then the next month was like $60,000. And we just kept on going. But it was that phase of time where we had to have someone around saying what Rob was saying earlier. Everything in business has already been solved. The solutions already exist. And to be pressing into a thing without knowing for sure that it would work is hard. Pressing into a thing, knowing for sure that it does work, even though it's hard, that will keep the wind in your sails.
Yeah,
So
especially with, sales being, historical data matters a lot in sales because you're never going to bat 1,000. You're never going to have a day consecutively where you're going to close, like there's no 1,000 batting rate over an extended period of time in sales. There just isn't. It's a little more like baseball, unless like what's another sport where it's like perfection is the goal. It's a little more like an air traffic controller. Like your job is to not let anyone die ever, right? And you probably lose your job if someone dies or a plane crashes on your watch, right? Versus like sports where it's like no one's ever hit every free throw or ever hit hole-in-ones every time in golf or hit 1,000 in baseball over an extended period of time. Baseball, there's guys who have 1,000 batting average over low at bats all the time, but over a full season with like a certain amount of at bats, it's never happened, right? Sales is a little more like that. And so go in knowing that you're probably going to suck, but you're going to get your sea legs under you pretty quick if you do the things that, like, if you do these things, because when you pay attention, your reps get better, like exponentially better every time you do it, right? Ryan was even fantastic at sales in the gym environment. And I was like super better than him doing high ticket at first. And I taught it to him, and he did these things more better than I did. Okay, that he's showing you here in these first 5 sales recommendations. And he quickly eclipsed me, and then he just took off. I mean, he's a far, far better high ticket closer than I am now. Right.
One of the
It's
biggest
like,
takeaways, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Rob, but one of the biggest takeaways that everybody should learn is that as leaders, if you cannot create leaders, you're not leading. You're just managing, right? So kudos to you, Rob, that you created someone like Orion and put him in the place of success in a new environment that he put in the sweat to thrive in, right? So
yeah.
I'm giving you both guys enough credit, but it takes somebody with vision to see a skill that you can develop in a whole new way, right?
Yeah, that's a leadership skill in the team building conversation, right? In the
Right,
team
right.
building context.
But you got
But
to
as
leave
far as
credit where
just
it's due.
developing yourself and the sale, like I suppose my point, and maybe to make it more clear, is that the person who has these habits that we're showing you, like the developmental skills, will become a better salesperson than the person who doesn't, right? Like prior knowledge or prior sales experience, I'd sold more in the agency space and the high ticket space than Ryan did, but he quickly eclipsed me because he adopted these things better than I did. That's my point,
And he
right?
doesn't have
Like,
biases, right? He's not learning how to do Facebook ads and SEO and all these things. He's
oh,
not
that helps. That's
he's
way
not
more helpful. Yes.
he's not contaminating his
Which is
mind with all the loom videos and help docs on high level. Like,
which Paulson, that is a huge, that might be the biggest nugget of this entire thing. And this is probably going to be the best soundbite of the whole thing is if you're good at that stuff, that might be the hardest part to get over in order to sell more, is to get out of your own way and stop talking about the tech and the tactics and how
yeah.
freaking smart you are and all that good stuff. That's how I was when I first started. I had to get out of my own way. In my first
Guys,
agency, I talked about that stuff all the time during sales calls. I was like, yeah, I'm like the best. And you're not, right? So
we've got about
yeah,
6 minutes,
Paulson.
guys. We got six
go.
minutes, and we're
Yeah.
gonna rapid fire when it comes to questions. Okay, first things first. If Rob and Ryan, these guys are being extremely generous to the community, and I just want to thank you for being able to jump in on another day. We've got one more day with Haplin tomorrow on the fulfillment side. So if you enjoyed a ton of the things that Ryan and Rob taught you today, give me a 1 in the chat, because I want people to recognize this thread and they can interact and understand what it's about. I'm gonna go through maybe 5, 6 questions. So make sure your questions are relevant. You can measure a man by the relevance of his questions. Okay, so put together some questions.
Which means the women are probably going to be better at this than all the men.
Well, I don't mean to be gender biased, but
No, I know.
anybody. But I'm gonna read out a couple of questions for Rob and Ryan, and we're gonna go through rapid firing. And you guys, Ryan and Rob, take 30 seconds to answer each question, because we're going to be able to go through more, obviously. So I'm going to wait for my first one here. Let's see. Let's see. I'm looking for some questions here. My phone is loading. There's so many comments in here that my phone is loading slow. Let's see.
I've got a one that's been repeated a lot.
Go for it. Go for it.
You want me to take one, Paulson, just to
No,
fill the time?
Go for it.
Can you show the prospecting slide and cover that, please? Or can I see the slides in general? Guys, this whole thing's being recorded, and we pretty much showed you our entire script, which is responsible for many 8 figures at this point, or some iteration of it. Okay, and you see, if you see in the document title, it says current pitch. And guys, this is not like a static thing. Okay, when you build your sales process out, it will be like, once you close the feedback loop, it will change over time based on what you're finding, how to optimize little steps. So Ryan and I've been working together for, I think 7 years, I think.
Yeah.
Something like that. And so, this thing has morphed and changed as we've gotten better at it, right? So view this more as a guide, not as a hard and true and fast thing that you should copy and paste in your business. I mean, use it as a starting place. Of course, that's why we're sharing it. Okay, but we're not prescribing, like, things are going to be different for different niches, and things are going to be different based off of your experience level and your time preference and things like that. Okay. So can you have the script? Well, we just gave it to you. All right. Do we recommend copying and pasting this and staying hard and fast and true? No, we don't.
Yeah, think of it like a
All right,
framework. Think of it like
it's like a guide. It's like
it's really what it is.
Guideline. Yeah.
I've got a question.
Good. Yep.
I've got a question here from Michelle Aiden, Ryan. Yep. Are there any other decision makers that should be on the call? If so, how do I handle that scenario?
Typically, you want to weed out managers scheduling a call. Occasionally, especially in the small business world, people want to run things by their wives or investors and things like that, which is okay. I try to figure those things out early on And if possible, if I know for sure that someone is like gathering information for the decision maker, I will never give them price. Right? If it's the manager, or if we're talking, they're like, yeah, I'd have to ask my business partner. I'm like, okay, great. I'll do the full needs assessment. And at the end, I'll explain what it is we do. And like, yeah, that sounds awesome. I want to do it. Well, tell me more about the price. Then I'll say, let's go ahead and schedule a second call where you and the decision maker and I can go over this, because I want to provide a custom solution for your exact scenario and have a few questions left for them. And then I'll schedule the second call.
Perfect. Next question, Ryan. I would be interested in learning more about your emotional tranquility and alertness and your ability to control your voice. Do you study NLP, or do you recommend any resources that will help me stay calm on sales?
It's a good question. One of my favorite books on sales would be SPIN Selling, Spin Selling. It's an acronym, SPIN, Spin Selling, Power Questions by Andrew Sabel. Those would be my top two recommendations for books in general, in terms of the general habits around sales. And I also have to recommend Gym Membership Sales, because I wrote that book. And you'll find things in there about managing your emotional state, asking good questions. The Gym Membership Sales book is going to be specific to the fitness industry, but those principles can be applied across industries. So final recommendation on that front in terms of improving in sales, take a look at it from several perspectives so that you have a depth of understanding. Like if you just read power questions, you'll have a nice 2D picture. But if you add in spin selling and you add in maybe something topical, like specific to an industry like gym membership sales, you'll see how those broad principles are applied to a specific industry, and you'll be able to reapply them to other industries and your own situation.
That's great, man. Also, another question: how do you deal with owners that don't have enough staff, or they don't have the ability to handle the appointments? Do you reject them, or do you make a recommendation?
I asked them if they're serious about growing their business or not. They don't have enough staff members to close sales, then they must not want sales. Now, here's an easy way to quantify it. If we're talking fitness industry, and I could do this for any industry, but I'm pretty familiar with fitness. So if in the fitness industry, given a $1,500 customer lifetime value for, say, boutique fitness, like bar, yoga, or a boot camp type offer, like 140 bucks a month or whatever, say, assume a $1,500 customer lifetime value. Assume that each location gets, well, let's call it like 15 sales opportunities per week. That's 60 sales opportunities in a month. Now, if you increase the close ratio by only 10%, that's an additional 6 sales per month. 6 sales per month times 12 months per year is 72 additional sales, times $1,500 is over $100,000, $108,000 in revenue. Now, I guarantee you that having enough salespeople in the busy times when prospects are likely to be coming in is not going to cost them more than $100,000, right? It's going to cost them to double up their sales coverage at busy times. It's going to cost them like 12, 15, 18K a year, which is a very worthwhile return for an extra 100 grand per year, especially considering that their ability to do this is part of what builds a moat around their business and gives them what they need to become the dominant player in their local industry and outpace the competition. Now, that's just with 60 people coming in through the doors and just a 10% increase in close ratio. If they hire a company who generates new leads, does database reactivations, gets referrals, books those appointments, and brings them in through the doors for them, they might get 80 or 100 sales opportunities per month. I'll tell you, in my studios, we book 30 new appointments per week per studio in each of the 6. So they're all getting 100 new people in through the doors every month. So that number doubles instantly with just a 10% increase in close ratio. So if you do the math with them like that, it'll be a no-brainer for them to make sure they have the proper processes and people in place to get a decent close ratio.
Awesome, guys. I appreciate a lot of you sticking it out. Rob, if you don't mind putting your slide up with the link to your group, that way it'll be easy for people to find you guys.
Sure. I saw a lot of, if it's okay, Paul said, I saw a lot of questions about, some of the details about the sales script and the methodology and handling objections and questions for Ryan. They're all good questions. We obviously have limited time. We do have a lot of these questions answered in my group, not the high level group, but our personal group. Ryan's got a ton of great training in there, a ton of objection handling videos and scripts and things like that. So if you want more on this stuff, go to robbailey.com/group. It's 3 B's in my name, ROBBBAILEY.com/group. We actually have a little free course in there that you can check out. And a lot of Ryan and I's sales trainings are in there. A lot of him talking without me interrupting, as someone poignantly pointed out. I'm the impatient jerk.
People
Yeah.
are so brutally honest. It's
I'm
terrible.
like, meat, fire. Yeah.
Yeah.
Water.
Yeah.
Brian is the more nuanced one, if you haven't figured that out already. Anyways, lots more resources there for you on this topic. I'll try to answer as many questions as I can on the Facebook thread after the session closes out and live video
sure.
has time to render.
And tomorrow we're gonna go over the fulfillment side, right, with Haplin, and he is your operations guy. Is that right?
Exactly. So tomorrow we're going to cover, we're going to go, tomorrow is very tactical. Okay. So today again yesterday was conceptual. Today was, sales tactics and sales mindset and script coverage. Okay. Tomorrow is going to be, okay, let's say you get a yes on the DR or the whole enchilada, meaning database reactivation, lead nurturing, ads, SaaS hooks. Let's say you get a yes on the whole enchilada. How do you fulfill on that while still keeping results without stopping to worry about fulfillment all day, every day? That's the sales fulfillment paradox. Okay. Like in my first agency, I would get a yes and I'd spend a month fulfilling on it. And I would never be able to take another sales call or get another yes or book another client. So how do you get a yes, keep the fulfillment results high without killing yourself or your team? Haplin's going to show you how to literally set up your first database reactivation campaign, start to finish. And then we're going to show you how to get leverage on that, meaning you don't have to do the fulfillment on it after you do it the first time. And we're also going to show you how to sort of like get your client onboarded and keep the client happy after you get the yes and get them that nice, awesome result without ad spend in a leverageable way for you. That keeps them super happy and very glad that they give you that $5,000 or $10,000 upfront that Ryan just showed you how to sell. Okay.
Awesome,
So,
guys. And all of you that have questions on the scripts and slides and everything like that, tomorrow, Rob and I are going to get together and we're going to put together something that's easy for you to access, and we're going to organize all those scripts and slides and all that anyway. So come tomorrow, we'll share all those things with you. I appreciate all of you being on here, and make sure you ask more questions in the actual streaming. We'll go through it and answer as much as we can. But I'm going to end the session if that's okay with you, Rob, unless there's... Okay, cool.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate
Sounds
you.
good.
Everyone give a quick thank you to Ryan. He's a boss. He's got a super tight schedule and he carved out his entire afternoon for us. So give him a huge thanks. You don't have to say thanks to me ever because I'm, caveman don't deserve thanks. But Ryan's special and I'm not, and Paulson's special. So thank him too. All right. Love you guys. Thank you for jamming with us for 2+ hours. Appreciate you.